Okay, so in this video, what I want to do is demystify this first code along experience, because for those of you coming in from CIT82 or CIT85, you're going to have this down, you're going to understand it. But there is, even for those students, some things here I definitely still recommend walking through. So what I have open here is I have opened the assignment, and I have it opened in the view that you see it. So what you're going to do is you're going to code along with Dave, because we're using these videos. Now I do provide an embedded link, or I provide an external link. And this is where you can set up your workspace to work best for you. Okay, but there's a couple of things you're going to want to have open. So one thing I do like to do is I like to have it open. Now I'm fortunate in the sense that I have two screens I can use. If you do have even another mobile device, that might be helpful, because you want to have this one open. You want to have your VS Code open. Okay, I'll come back to this in a minute, right? You want to have live server going. I'll show you that, right? And you want to have your output. But in addition, so you already see it's like several things going on at one time. And I think we're kind of all trained to have the ability to multitask when we're looking at things. But in this case, you're constantly switching between watching the video, okay, and actually coding along. Now this is where, again, I kind of have my workspace set up to where I was like, okay, and when I'm working in the code alongs, because at the end of the last assignment, you should end up with two repos, and because all the code along, and this is what you can understand, all the code along work is done in the private repo. One thing I like to do, and I generally recommend, is actually open that private repo when you're, or if you're working in the public when we get to those discussions. But for now, I find it's just a little easier for me to kind of only look at that folder, and there are some things in the editor sometimes that make that a little better. Okay, so I would have that open. And you'll end up creating this folder, and now here's the thing you're going to see. And now let's go back here. Is that in addition to telling you where chapters we're doing, I have what I would call a fairly detailed link to instructions that I provide. Because just coding along with Dave is not really going to, if you code along for the whole time but you don't do the work as I instruct, it won't give you the points. And so here's what you want to do, and here's the markup file, okay? And I already have it open here. And so here's the instructions that you'll get. And some of this is just me commenting, because I just want you to know I go through this work. I don't just assign this without going through it. There are definitely, you will see my commentary for doing this, right? So creating a new file. Definitely read through this, and what you want to look for is these types of messages. Now definitely look through all the all my comments, right? So when you get to a commit, that's when you have to stop and actually do the commit itself. And if you're not in it, and for some of you, this again may be your first time of doing a commit. Okay, so in the previous exercise, the last type thing we did was a commit. So in this case, when you get to the, after you've done the setup and you do the basic tags, right? And that's why reading along, right, as we're doing this really, really helps. And it's not to say, these chapters indicate how much time is in each chapter. It doesn't indicate when to do the commits. That's why having this open is really handy as well. Okay, so we have a commit message here. We have a commit message after adding some metadata. And part of this is also understanding, when I say this, hopefully you're learning about what metadata is. Okay, and then you'll do here, we have another commit, and we have another commit, and then that's it. So for this work, you'll need to make sure, because the way I grade your work is on how well have you committed at the right places, and have you done the code that's required. And I know when you first start doing this, this will feel like it will be added time, but you'll get used to this process. It won't take that long. I do tell you I've had, I have, and again, the CIT82 or the CIT93 students can actually give you some of that feedback, although they may say it's hard. It's not my intention. Okay, so let's go back here. So now what I've shown you, right, you're watching the video from me for how to do this. You're going to code along. I've shown you the instruction. I've shown you what chapters we are. I've given you, here's how to open it. And by the way, Dave does provide, right? And by the way, Dave's a great guy, and he really deserves, and this is a really current course, and I appreciate that. In addition, Dave does give, and this is what is often helpful, right, is at least, and you will see him, oh, wrong one, wrong link. It's actually this one right here, all the resources. And this can be a little confusing. Every time he switches between chapters, he changes the subdirectory. And you are not going to do that for this course, okay? What you're going to end up doing is what you see me have here, which is you'll end up having week 1 HTML, and all of the code that we do will be there. So when that happens, just know that when you first see that, it can be a little daunting. The other thing is I want you to, come up with some of your own content too. He does a hello world, places I plan on visiting. Come up with your own content to make it more interesting. And it's another way that I know students, and again, I'm not speaking to any particular students. I just know it can be somewhat natural to come in here and want to cut and paste information. And that's not the idea of a course like this. And again, right, it won't help you, because if you're just doing that per lesson, then you won't get my commits correctly. But the good news is when you're coding and you're looking at it and you're going through and doing things like, in this case, we talk about validation. If you've missed something, you're not sure what it was, if the message doesn't make sense, you can always go and compare it to see if there was maybe a piece that you missed. Okay, so let me go back here to the instructions. So hopefully now you at least have a little better idea. So let me now talk to you about how you commit, or how you submit this assignment. Once you get all the way through 3, right, and you get all the commits done per the instruction, then what you will do is that last command in, right? So let me go over here just to verify, because I didn't show you the rest of the commands, because I'm hoping by now you've seen them, right? But when you're coding along, right, and you get to that point that you finish that, right, and I'm just going to simulate them here. We do get add star, right? Get commit m, and this is where you look for the commit message, the message I require. And I'm just putting this here and not, right? Okay, I don't have anything to commit, no problem here. And then get push. Now you don't actually have to do the get push, which is actually going to push your code from your local to GitHub. You don't have to do this until the end, but you do have to do the commits. Okay, so just to be clear about that. Now once you do the git push, and I'm just going to move over to the tab here that is for the private repos. So here's the other thing. All code along is done in the private, and all discussion work is done in the public. So I know switching back and forth, that can also get it. But here's the deal. Only you and I see your private repo. Everyone sees your public one, including anybody from the internet. So when you're ready to submit, what you will do is go into the folder that we're working on, and you will go into your history. And when you go into history, this is the URL that you will submit to me for grading. And what I will do is come through here. Now in this case you're seeing 3 commits, but it's really when you look at it, and that's why you want to look at the markdown file to say, okay, I need to make sure I've done these commits at this point. Okay, adding some metadata, and then when Dave continues to do the external style sheets, right? If you catch yourself doing the external style sheet, which is good to look at the instruction, you go to, oh, stop, do that. Okay, again, it'll get more natural as we move forward. Okay, so how do you submit it? You come over here, you copy this, right? And you come into the assignment, you hit start assignment, You give me the URL, okay? If you have any comments, you can make them and then you will submit it. Now, here's what you can know is and here's the benefit of working ahead. If you submit it, I generally grade every morning. Generally before 10 in the morning. So, if you're reaching out, say, hey, could you grade it at noon? I'm going to say, no, I've already done my daily grading. So if you want something pre-graded, which is a great idea, especially at the beginning and honestly anytime, then what you're going to want to do is submit early, and then I will give you feedback. Okay, and I might say, hey, you missed something. And so what you want to do is after you submit that item, for this one, once I grade, you will see a little icon here, and that indicates there's comments. Okay, so you want to go in there and look at those comments to fix anything, and you can resubmit, right? So that's my encouragement for you to work ahead. Okay, so I know there's a lot for this first one, so working ahead will really be handy. But just to look at the item again, if I go home, remember this course is reinforced. It forces you to move sequentially. I know I talked about that up in attendance, but you do have to do one item, do the next, and do the next. And at this point that you come into the course, I may already have week 2 published. So every time I publish a week, you'll just see it show up here. Okay? I hope this helps. Commit your, once you're done, give me your commit history URL so that when I open this up, I clearly see your commits. By the way, one of the things I do is I end up having all of the repos for students on my local system, and I check them there. All right, I'll talk to you later. Hope this helps.